Hi everyone and welcome to another episode of Gaffer and Gear. Today's episode is mainly for gaffers. Alright, so you might have bought a light in the last 12 months that has built-in Lumen Radio. Well, in today's episode I'm going to show you how to do a software adjustment in these things using the CRMX toolbox so that you can feed a DMX signal into the light and use it as a CRMX transmitter. Now you might already have controllers that have the ability to transmit Lumen Radio, such as the LightMat Spectrum controller, but in today's video we're going to go through how to use a light that doesn't have any menu systems, doesn't have any buttons to enable you to switch it across to being a transmitter and show you how to do that. Alright, so first off, you might be a bit surprised to hear that a lot of the lights we've bought in the last 12 months actually do have the capability of transmitting Lumen Radio. So I'm just going to give you a bit of a backstory that I found from doing a bit of research on the internet. Alright, so the current generation of state-of-the-art Lumen Radio receiver transmitters are called TimoTwos, and they consist of a receiver and a transmitter all built into one. And the idea of it is that somewhere down the track, when they get the technology sorted out, you will be able to send a signal from your transmitter to your light and then have the light relay that transmission as part of a mesh network. So that's something that's coming in the future, but the hardware technology is in the lights now. Alright, so we'll go through what we need in order to make this happen. So the first thing you need is a light that has a TimoTwo receiver transmitter module. We'll figure that out in a sec. The next thing you need is a mobile device, a phone or a pad that has Bluetooth capability, because it talks to the chip inside the light via Bluetooth. And the next thing you'll need is the CRMX Toolbox app, which is a free download. Now this app works on iOS and Android devices. Alright, so I've got my CRMX Toolbox loaded onto my iPad and I'm going to go through the whole process from scratch. Okay, so the first thing we do is go to Connect Devices, so I'll click on that. Now at the moment I don't have any power running to this unit. I've just got to turn the power connector to get power to it. So the reason I'm doing this is to make sure that this actually is the device that I'm talking to. So let's turn power onto it and then refresh the devices, and up comes TimoTwo. Okay, so that is definitely this, this receiver transmitter module. All right, so let's click on that and then down the bottom click to Connect Device. So now it connects to that. All right, so up comes the home page for that light. Now down the bottom there, you'll see it needs its TimoTwo firmware updated. So it says there's a firmware update available. So let's click on that first. It's very important to do that first. And start update. All right, now we've updated the firmware, and you'll notice down the bottom the update firmware button is no longer dark, so you can't click on it. So when that's dark, you know you need to do a firmware update. All right, now a couple of steps back, you might have noticed an option there that I didn't click, which was Identify Device. Now, if you've got something like a a Lumen Radio bridge, for example, if you click Identify Device, the lights on the front will flash. Okay, but on the light here, there's nothing on the front to flash to indicate that this is the device that we're selecting. So that's why I was using the power on off to figure out which device it was. All right, so let's go to device settings now. Now, the next thing I'd suggest you do is change the name. So I've already done that. I've changed it to 600D number 1 so that I can identify it in the future. All right, so here you can see we've got a choice of RX or TX. RX is receiver, TX is transmitter. Okay, so let's click on transmitter. Now, it's not a transmitter at this stage because we haven't clicked down the bottom Save Settings. So let's click on that. All right, now let's go back to our device settings, and you'll notice we've got link and unlink. Now over here I've got a receiver that is unlinked. As soon as I hit link, this will now send out the link command to the receiver. So let's have a look. Not looking good. There we go. We've got 2 and a bit bars of signal strength. Okay, so now this transmitter is linked to that receiver. Okay, so now let's see if all that works. So I'm going to feed some DMX in, and that's coming out of an old school desk here. And the reason I'm using that old school desk is it doesn't have any Lumen Radio in it, so that you know that the receiver here is picking up the transmission from the controller. All right, now the thing I found at this point, you are best to disconnect the power from the light that you are using as the transmitter when you plug the DMX in. I don't know why that is, but I found that if you don't do that, it doesn't acknowledge the DMX signal coming in. And the other thing I found is when you reconnect the power, you can get full signal strength on the receivers. So that's just something I've noticed. All right, so let's feed some DMX through now off the desk, and there we go. So we're sending DMX cabled into a 600D and then sending it Lumen Radio to the light. Now I took the 600D control box outside to see how far it could transmit, and I got a reliable signal of about 120 meters. That's roughly the same as my Exolux Control 1 and about half the distance I get off my light panel's Apollo bridge. All right, now I've finished doing everything. Before I put this away, I'm going to set it back to being a receiver. Otherwise, the next person that uses it will never figure out what's wrong with it, because remember, nothing in the menu system connects to the TimoTwo transmitter like we are. All right, so go to device settings, click RX for receiver. Remember to click save settings and just make sure it saves. And there you go, so we're saved. All right, now this app is worth downloading and worth having on your devices. Even if you're not going to do stuff like this, here's a scenario where it plays out. If you have a look, you've got things like link and unlink. So you could have a light in your lighting grid that you've set up. You've come down to the ground, you've gone to use your DMX and realized you forgot to link the light. Well, you don't have to climb up the ladder again. You can link it using the software. So that's something that could come in really, really handy. Also, things like you can set your DMX universe, and you can also set your loss of DMX behavior from the app. So the app is worth having, even if you're not going to try and turn transmitters into receivers. Anyway, I hope that comes in handy for you. See you on the next episode of Gaffer and Gear.